it was a painful watch. I know
you don't say.
I know. I was like, oh. But it was so painful. Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we'll be discussing the new movie, Freelance.
Midweek movies are a great time to take a chance on a movie you might not otherwise see. Check out your local movie theater for midweek bargain days. Some have a movie club where you get special pricing. Maybe even take your partner out on a date. If you're burned out on the 3-hour blockbusters, this is a great time to take a chance on a movie and see a smaller budget movie. Let's get started.
Mason Petite is out of the business of being a soldier and is content with a normal life. Or at least that's what he keeps telling himself with his new law degree before his old CEO tempts him with a new offer. Keep journalist named Claire Wellington safe and alive during her interview with ruthless dictator President Vengus, and it'll be on the road to a better life. But this one doesn't wildly go off the rails first.
I know, Rebecca, we always talk about as a team, what movie do we want to see? And I laugh because I did not want to see this movie.
You were outvoted again!
And it's happened more than once. It wasn't like, oh, I want to see this too. I'm like, I do not want to see this. I admit it looked goofy. My favorite phrase is, it looked forgettable. But the box, the kid dragged me, the rest of our team, go, go, go. I'm telling you, I think there's a chant. The thing that was hilarious is I'm like, I don't want to see this. Nobody I know is going to go see this. And we go in, family, friends, some other people we know. I'm like, there's not a lot of people in this theater, but more than half was our team and people we knew. Now what? Right?
Our local cinema community must have heard and came out to support you.
Oh my goodness. I kind of wonder who's on the back of the horn going, come see it. She doesn't want to be here. I will say the part that did appeal to me was there's a few showings, not too many in our area, even though we saw it at the local AMC. I know Cinemark is showing it as well. The part that grabbed my attention was one of the showings had Spanish subtitles, and I know there's a strong Latino influence. That encouraged me. So I thought maybe there's some diversity. Maybe this is going to be a smarter movie than I thought. Again, feeling a little encouraged. Cinema communities out there. Maybe we could go see this. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
You were so wrong.
I was so wrong. Yeah, spoiler alert. I was wrong in quite a big way. I'm wondering if you felt the same or if you're just heckling me over there.
Oh, don't worry. I'm turning some of my ire towards myself. There's a line in the movie that it's repeated twice, so you know the screenwriters are well aware of it.
Yes.
Embrace the suck. If you want to embrace the suck, watch this movie.
No, and I laughed because the first time I heard it, I looked over you and I went, Did you hear that? And I thought it was just me. I thought, oh my gosh, they read me. They know. And I looked and you're laughing, Box is laughing, there's chuckles throughout the theater of how many of us? I thought, like you said, they're very self-aware. They said it again.
So I'm like, it's not a mistake.
Wow. I just thought, no. And of course it's, billed as an action. It has John Cena. I keep on calling him Cena. Yeah. And he's in it. He's not terrible. How bad could it be? I laugh though. The director who directed this, you know who this was?
You told me and I thought you were lying. So I literally pulled out my phone before the show just to fact check you.
No, and it is, right? Who is our guy?
The dude who directed Taken. Oh man, I wish he would have taken this project somewhere else.
Well, I didn't like Taken because who wants to see their kid taken?
But it's not your kid, it's somebody else's kid.
Well, it's like
it's Liam Neeson.
I love Liam Neeson.
Dad's the best, huh? Yes, he is.
And, I don't want somebody taking his kid and then his wife. I mean, she's like in the second one. And
listen to me carefully, Kim. Your mother is going to be taken.
The box is over there going, somebody took my wife, somebody took my kid. I'd want to know what to do.
I have 30 minutes. This is not a game. I will finish this thing. You'll just have to die.
I'm like, I had nightmares for 2 weeks after Taken. I'm thinking, what the heck is this going to be for me? Well. No nightmares, actually. It's like, it's forgettable. So there it is.
Ooh, the F word.
Yeah, right? I was like, oh. Did it feel like a comedy? Did it feel like an
There was a
action-y?
couple smart little lines, but they were sandwiched in between a lot of filler. And I do mean a lot of filler.
President Venegas, so nice to meet you.
We must take a selfie. You approve?
Great.
Not the time for coaching!
Oh, this movie could have been much, much shorter.
Oh, my God.
Color me impressed, Mr. Petit. Not petite at all.
I would say this movie could have been probably at least 20 to 30 minutes shorter.
Oh, at least. I think it could have been much, much shorter because it told the story and then it retold the story and it told the story one more time in case you missed it with action, which is essentially, people killing each other, which I guess constitutes action.
So I know someone in our local cinema community who we know quite well actually texted us later after the screening and said, hey, I was expecting a better movie, something like Playing with Fire. Playing with Fire at the time of this recording has a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes on the critical side of things, but it has an audience score of 77%. So they're doing something right when it comes to that. I don't think that this movie knows what audience it's going for. In some ways, it's very self-aware.
It is, right, as we were saying, right.
The actors definitely know what audience they're playing for, but this movie feels incohesive. I feel like if they had kind of leaned into some things a little bit more, I think it could have been funnier.
Well, like as you were saying, part of our cinema community was saying it had its moments. I was having a hard time finding the moments, and I'm not enjoying just go, oh, it's this, it's it, but it just never connected. And John, as an actor, I generally like okay. He's not my favorite. I don't, gravitate toward any movie he's in, but he's pretty decent.
But we have to talk about the ultimate scene stealer in this movie.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Juan Pablo Rivera.
Yeah, and Juan Pablo is quite an actor. And like you said, you've seen him in other pieces.
That's correct. I watched Narcos with the Box on Netflix, both series, and he did a pretty good job in that.
Well, in this movie, he to me was comedic.
He was comedic, but one of the things I liked, and I'm going to point this out as a general positive for the movie, this movie attempts to give every character that's in this movie some depth. There's very rarely any characters that you don't get to know a little bit more about. But Juan Pablo Rivera did an excellent job as President Juan Venegas. I'd love to see a movie with just him, like the adventures of him.
Well, and I like the phrase self-aware. He was very self-aware. They were talking about coups and things that were happening with family members and betrayals. And he was very aware of that. He went back to his childhood friend who helped harbor him. I liked him as a character. That I think that was the other part of it. There was some depth to him as he was trying to make decisions. There was this whole spiritual scene for him. That he was just very forgiving toward a family member who had betrayed him at one point. And so there were some themes where you're like, wow, this person really does understand. He's very loyal. So I did like him a lot. However, John's character and then Alison Brie, who played Claire Wellington, the journalist, I didn't really have a lot of love for her. I didn't like her very
I didn't
much.
like her at the beginning. I think that was part of the point, is she was so down on her luck that she was trying to prove that she was a serious journalist. And there's one scene that you might not expect her to have depth in that I was really pleasantly surprised in the screenplay that they used it as an illustration point.
And what point was that you're referencing?
That was when she was trying to get to know John Cena's character just a little bit more.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. And Christian Slater's in the movie, and we like Christian Slater typically.
Christian Slater, I felt like he didn't phone it in. He could have phoned it in. He could have just picked up his paycheck and said, I'm done. But he actually did try to put on a good performance with what he was given.
And I think he did. However, the rest of the movie felt very flat. Mason's wife, you
That
don't
was
really.
my big complaint
I didn't
with.
really like her, and I thought, well, that's a little. The premise of the movie is, as you said, he had a passion. He was in special forces, and then he didn't want to be a lawyer, and then he became a lawyer.
There's a lot of good elements of this movie waiting to be fused together to have a story where you're rooting for the characters. Instead, you're just kind of following the crazy antics of the characters going, what else is there? And then there's these surprising serious moments.
But it felt disjointed, as you had said. It felt uneven. And that's the whole thing is, if I like the characters, I can be a little bit more forgiving around the storyline that's a little weak. There needed to be more.
Well, and I remember you and I had discussed when we were washing up after seeing the film.
Sure.
That you didn't care about what happened to any of the characters except for the one Palo Rabbit guy.
Yeah, well, right. The president, although it was a little crazy, he's wearing this white suit that amazingly stays white the entire movie, which it was so unrealistic, it was distracting.
Let's not forget it was bulletproof at one
Well,
point.
exactly. And he's being shot at, of course, right? Everybody wants to kill him. And at one point you're like, and how exactly does this work? And he's like, oh, this suit is bulletproof. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But at least they had enough self-awareness to address this issue.
But they're self-aware, and there's... I get it. I know that they know they're not Shakespeare, which I appreciate. However, they're self-aware, self-deprecating. All right, that's kind of cute. But it was beyond the self-deprecation. It was, if you know it, fix it. If you know it, change it. Don't go, oh, I know it. Forgive it, forgive it, forgive it. It's like, okay, great. Do something with this. Make it better.
And there are some genuinely funny lines in the movie where I did laugh at. I just wish there was more of them. If this is being billed as an action comedy, you have to succeed on the action, which I found boring. And you have to succeed in the comedic element, which is few and far between with this movie.
Well, and it's tough when you say, I know the actors, meaning, John, Christian Slater, obviously the president, we loved him. However, I wanted to like the wife. And I'm like, she's like, oh, I think we should separate. And you're like, well, I can kind of understand they're not doing too well. The daughter was cute. I will say, to John's credit, even though he was out and about, he was loyal to his wife, and they did want to reconcile at one point, which I thought, well, that's a good move. It's like,
they did set that up, which was nice, because it wasn't just the wife suddenly likes him again. It's like, there's a little bit of a build-up.
Correct. And I appreciated that the marriage piece was significant and was important for him and the daughter, and she did understand why they were having trouble. Do we have any questions from the box?
The team commented there were several plot holes that were very gaping, and it's just like, wait, what? That's impossible. 100% impossible. Did that wreck the movie for you? Or were you willing to overlook all those large gaping plot holes?
I think I was just too distracted with just some of the flaws of the story to really pay attention to the plot holes. I was more concerned about the character motivations and how they were interacting with each other.
You were a lucky woman. I wish that would have been my experience. I would have loved to have been in your camp. It was a painful watch. I know,
you don't say.
I know. I was like, oh. But it was so painful when characters do stupid things. Fine, I can suspend some stupidity. I get that.
Don't watch a horror movie with me.
Yeah, I think, didn't we just do Freddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? And I can handle some of that. Things don't have to be perfect for me to enjoy the movie or to get into it or to forgive certain things. However, the gaping indiscrepancies were so ridiculous. And you know me, our cinema community is getting to know me. I hate it when I know what they're going to do next, and I know it's going to be stupid.
Oh, I get a huge elbow in the arm from that when that happens.
Well, and I laugh because one person died, and I looked over at you, and you looked at me, and I went, He's going to close the dead person's eyes. And next thing you know, he's like, and I'm like, oh, stop. I want to stop. Oh, stop. I always want to be wrong.
I thought that was you lowering your moth rating.
No, it was like the eyes. And I'm like, oh, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. And granted, we watch a lot of movies, and understandably, that's out of respect. I get that. However, there were other plot holes, as the box has expressed, gaping plot holes. And honestly, we can't even go, 1, 2, or 3. There were so many, it became almost a character in the film. But it wasn't
a bad sign.
Well, and to me, it wasn't even like, it's funny. And like I said, if I like the story, if I like the acting, if there were parts of it that I could gravitate or hang on to and say, that's better, I'm good with that. And understandably, I didn't want to go, this isn't my typical genre of movies, and knowing that Taken had given me nightmares about my kid being abducted for weeks, I was not excited. And I wasn't excited because it's just, this isn't my typical type of a movie. And unfortunately, I was disappointed. I was hoping I would go in and say, I'm not really interested, but boy, it was so great. I'm so glad our Cocoon Cast team talked me into going. Obviously, you in the box had the biggest pull. However, I would have loved to have said, I was wrong. I'm happy to be wrong anytime.
That's kind of where I was. I was really sad to be wrong. The trailer looked funny to me. And I was really disappointed that the movie just wasn't living up to the trailer.
Well, and I think the trailer probably was better than the movie, would you say?
Yes, and that's saying something, because sometimes they'll take scenes from the trailer that aren't in the movie. All of these scenes were in the trailer that are in the movie. Most of the trailer I was laughing at, but in the context of the movie, they just weren't as funny.
Well, and it was much, much longer, obviously, than the trailer, but the movie itself felt too long to me. Rebecca, it is that time of the show where 5 moths they're doing something.
Oh boy, it's too late for this.
It's too late for this. Talk to me. 1 to 5 moths. How would you rank this movie?
This is a 1 moth movie.
Oof, a solid 1?
Solid 1.
Solid 1. But less than a 2?
Way less than 2.
Not quite the crickets.
No, and I think there's moments in this movie that are funny. I do think that the actors are talented. I do think that the screenplay does attempt to provide all of these characters with depth instead of making them cookie cutter. They're attempts. They do not succeed. Hence the 1 moth.
Wow. I'll be honest. I was between a 0 moths and a 1 moth. And honestly, and zeros are always tough. However, I have given a 0 and I've given a 5. The 1 for me is the president role. And you're more ambitious than I am, saying, wow, they were trying. In the comment you'd made about the president, that you would watch a movie he was in. And I thought about that, and I thought, I would actually too. And I thought, if this movie has introduced that character, introduced his storyline to us, and going, you know what, that's something I wouldn't have thought about. And Christian Slater, I don't think he did a terrible job. I think his, like you said, the material he had to work with was pretty weak. However, his acting was pretty decent, all things considered. So to give it less than a 1, it felt like, no, there was enough in there that a 1 feels reasonable to me.
You know what I'd be really interested in seeing is, I'd be interested in seeing if this movie gets a sequel. It kind of finds a home life on initial release for the general public, and it kind of gets like this cult following around it. And I'd be interested to see if they get a sequel, kind of like they did for Getting Sarah Marshall. And then they did a sequel with Russell Brand's character and getting him to the Greek. I'd be curious to see if they do that for the El Presidente character.
Well, and I'd be curious if our cinema community thinks that they would see a sequel. Maybe they would be excited about this. Maybe they resonated with the characters enough to go, I really want to see this.
I'm invested enough at this point, honestly,
that you would you would try it again.
You never know. Sometimes the first outing is the thing that you need to get the idea off the ground. Now you know what you're working with. Mm-hmm. Turn up the flame.
Is it worth a watch in your mind?
I think it's a fluffy movie if you've got nothing else going on and just want to watch something where you can kind of zone in and out and just have a little bit of fun.
Thanks for joining us. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Watch the notifications for a review of the new movie, Priscilla. Then come back to the channel this coming weekend for a weekly show, Movies and More, where we will have more movie reviews, the latest Hollywood news, and commentary with snark meant to amuse.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share our channel.
If you enjoyed this movie review, you might click the link to check out our review of Anatomy of a Fall, or click the other link to watch last week's show, where we reviewed Five Nights at Freddy's.
Remember, cinema community, movies are better together. Thanks for watching. See you in the next review.